Everything we do is merely a distraction from the absurdity of our existence. We are attempting to distract ourselves from the void. If you strip life down to the basics, we wake up, we do tasks, we chase goals, and once we hit those goals, we just chase new goals, and then we repeat this cycle. And underneath all of that, there is a sort of quiet, uncomfortable truth. We don't really know why we're here. I am a big fan of the philosopher Albert Camus. If you guys don't know, he is regarded as one of the fathers of absurdism, which is pretty much the idea that like life, it's like nihilism, but nihilism is all like dreadful. It goes like beyond nihilism where it's like nothing matters, so everything's absurd, so just sort of do what you want. Because when you really think about it, everything kind of amounts to nothing. You could do really good at a certain thing or really bad, and at the end of the day, you still go back to your bed and you sleep, and you're still going to die one day, and everyone you know is going to die, and we're all going to be forgotten. Busyness sort of keeps us from sitting with this question for too long because in a way it's unbearable. The idea that we have to go through so much pain and suffering in life and so many Kafka-esque moments it's like too much to really like comprehend and internalize. So instead we go to work every day. The novel, I recommend this to you guys, The Stranger by Camus. It's a story about a guy who gets...
So I I really disagree with this idea that everything we do is really just a cope to avoid thinking about death. If you've ever seen a child play or color a coloring book or do something, it's because they just enjoy it. It's as simple as that. They're doing it because they enjoy it. Um, and I believe this is true for adults as well. I go kayaking because I enjoy it, not because I'm trying to escape my thoughts. Um, I think while I'm kayaking, I think about things, uh, existential things, and all that. But I'm enjoying that, and some people enjoy existential thoughts as well, so they look forward to it. For them, that's their way of not being bored. Uh, I just went on vacation. I didn't go on vacation because I'm escaping thinking and stuff like that. I went because I enjoy it. It's just so simple. Um, we're not. I, I I yes, we some people, you know, we all do things to kind of distract ourselves from boredom, and sometimes yes, that boredom can lead to us. We can have these deep thoughts while we're bored, but it's simpler than that. We just don't enjoy being bored. Um, if that causes you to be bored, we'll put on music or something. We're not trying to escape these deep thoughts. Uh, we don't say to ourselves, "Oh no, keep if I stay bored and no music and I don't do something, then I'm going to have these thoughts." Uh, no, it's just the boredom can make you antsy. It's just you want to do something pleasurable. It's as simple as that. There is it's just not. I don't know how to explain this. You can say, oh, it's because you want to escape these deep thoughts, but for a lot of people, they it's just as simple as not being bored. Uh, not yeah. I don't know where this, oh no, you're going to have deep thoughts if you stop doing things. Sure, an artist might do their art because they want to be remembered and they're giving themselves meaning by doing that, and they say to themselves, well, I want to leave something behind whenever I'm dead. But they also enjoy doing this thing. Um, and they don't, you know, it's just the adults are just like the kid doesn't even know about death yet or think about any of that. The kid just enjoys uh, riding his bike or I'm talking about a toddler that knows nothing. They're just getting used to enjoying these things and finding out things that they enjoy, coloring a coloring book, things like that. They're not trying to escape anything. again, they're the same thing with adults. We're not sure, there are some people that might be doing that at some point in time, but those same people also do things purely for the joy of doing things that they enjoy. That's all there is to it. So I'll continue this video now.
Convicted of a crime, and it's his trial. And on the trial, the main character is being questioned, and he's completely indifferent. Like, he doesn't care whether or not he gets convicted. He doesn't care about anything. He's just so blunt, straightforward about it all. And then to a point where it's so raw that it makes other people uncomfortable or like concerned with the guy. Like, how does this guy not care? But if we're being honest, most likely that is probably the realest way that you can treat any given situation. It's like, well, I will definitely one day no longer be here. And so it doesn't make sense to have so much anxiety about everything and to care so much, because that only leads to more suffering, right? Work is essentially structured and distraction. So careers, they give us a false sense of identity and purpose. And what's sad is, like, as time is going on, and we all know this, and if you're a fan of my channel, you know that.
Work is merely a way for us to get the money to do the things we enjoy, and also to have a home and things like that. We don't work because it's a distraction. We work because we have to. We work to survive, to get money. Animals work, they expend calories so they can survive. Animals are no better. Their situation in many respects is worse. They don't have jobs like we do, but they have to work for their food as well. But they don't have pain pills. They don't have the structure that we have to escape the cold and things like that, and disease. And like, if something bites them, they can die from infection, whereas we can take medicines. So yeah, work is more about surviving, not escaping, because it's not a choice. If it were about escaping, then I think a lot of people just wouldn't work, and we would do things that we enjoy. But we have to, in order to do things we enjoy, we have to work. And like I said, we do the things we enjoy purely because we enjoy them. Not because we're, for the most part, again, just because we enjoy them. So
I feel about this, but that we're starting to recognize that there is no purpose, there is no identity in your work. And so the idea is still there, where it's like, oh, yes, I'm doing something with my day. Like, you can check that box, like, today wasn't a waste because I did something. But only a slave quantifies its existence through productivity. So we've basically been brainwashed by hustle culture to believe that we have to go and do things.
So saying that something isn't a waste of your day is not the same thing as saying I'm trying to cope. Just because you don't want to waste your day not being productive or not doing something you enjoy, that's not the same thing as trying to evade deep thoughts or whatever, or looking into the void, as you say.
But deeper than that, it's just like, we do things because if we're busy, then our thought and our brain is occupied on those tasks, as opposed to asking the existential questions about our life. In promotions, money, titles, these things, they give you a false sense of meaning, but only within the system that they're configured in. So if you go outside of the system, it really doesn't matter. One thing, I was talking to my friend about this a couple months back, and I said, it's crazy to think about how, like, let's say you on an individual scale, you have this one job, and you're so concerned about all the aspects of this one job and everything that's related to completing the tasks that you're supposed to be doing. But there is another world where you're living in a different area, you have a different job, like, your life is completely different, and you're not worrying about those things, but those things would still go on with or without you. And I think this shows the absurdity that is. It's like, so we, like, from an individual, not from a massive standpoint, but from an individual standpoint, like, it really doesn't matter what you do, because unless you're like some Elon Musk type person, which no one watching this video is, if you were to no longer do your daily tasks, what you're doing, it's really not gonna have any major impact, which then tells us that those things in themselves.
No, it will have a major impact. You will become homeless, and you will, and it does matter what you do, because you're gonna want to try to find the job that you enjoy most, or put yourself in a situation that is the most pleasurable and avoids the most pain. These are the things that direct us in life, dictate us in life, is the avoidance of pain and the pursuit of pleasure or happiness.
And you by proxy don't really matter. And it sounds dreadful, but it could be, I'm viewing it more in a freeing way, where it's like, oh, nothing matters and we can do whatever we want. You know what I mean? And I'm going to actually I want to do a video soon recommending books for you guys, because I have a bunch. And like, I've just been reading, I'm very much into philosophy, as many of you guys know. And like, all these...
This idea that we can do whatever we want because nothing matters, later in the video you say you're a Christian, so that contradicts it right there. So what do you really believe? Plus there's this thing called generic subjective continuity, which you would have to watch my videos, which in an infinite universe, GSC, generic subjective continuity, would make everything matter. And even if GSC isn't true, in an infinite universe, everything would still matter in a way, depending on how selfless you are, because there would be endless ripples, endless karma, cause and effect. I mean that use of karma, cause and effect. The traditional, actual Buddhist sense of karma, not this idea of you get punishment in the next life and all of that. Basically, what we do now will affect the future, cause and effect. It's as simple as that. So I'm not saying anything like supernatural when I say karma. Let's continue.
Books that I like read, there just seems to be like a common theme in philosophy where every philosopher from different countries and different centuries and all this stuff, they all tackle this same idea of like, why is it that we're here? Like, what are we doing here? You know? And this goes back, as somebody who studied like the vast majority of philosophers, this goes back to the ancient philosophers in Greece, right? In Athens, like Plato, Socrates, Aristotle. They all were like, they believed that mankind naturally is drawn to the idea of God, but they also tackled ideas of like God being just the universe, and like so like Plato pretty much believed that wasn't Plato, I forget who it was, which one of the ancient ones it was, but they believed that like the universe and the world just always existed. It was the alpha and the omega, like it wasn't bound by time, it just always was. And
I tend to think this is true, whether or not there's a God. If there's a God, then according to the Bible, it is true. There's always been consciousness that would be referred to God as God. But I have this theory I call the law of somethingness. So it aligns with the idea that the universe is eternal in both directions. And actually, block universe theory, eternalism, says that it is true in all directions, all dimensions. Yeah, so I have this theory called the law of somethingness, and I have videos on that you can check out. It aligns perfectly with this idea that everything there has to be something. And so once again, that in combination with generic subjective continuity would mean that everything you do matters.
And there was no conception point to it. And I find this fascinating because when you really dig into science, you just realize that like there really makes no sense to it. There inevitably has to be a question that cannot be answered by we're limited by human consciousness not to answer, because if you're an atheist and you believe in the universe, well, where did the first cause start? Like, how did everything start? Even if you're a believer in God or whatever religion you believe in, that also begs the question. You have to have faith. You have to have belief in something that cannot be explained as well. So everything just like no matter how you look at things, it always just seems to point back to absurdism. You know, like what is the reason we're here? And then what happens is we use entertainment as an escape. You're watching this video as an escape. I mean, that's the irony of this. People do endless scrolling, binge watching gaming, and we're at a point now where it's not even just my generation; it's also the older generations. They might not be scrolling on TikTok, but they're watching the news. They're still watching all this various slop that's just designed, that's been Mr. Beastified to be really easy to consume. It's kind of soulless. It doesn't have much merit to it. And because silence feels heavy, we feel it. I mean, back in the day, if you used to exercise, like that would be the thing that you were doing is exercising. Now you have earbuds in while you're exercising. You can go on your phone while you're walking on the treadmill. You know, you're in the shower. You can listen to music. You have a portable speaker. Like, there's always something to fill the silence. And the repercussions of this are kind of hard for us to understand because number one, we don't know the long-term effects yet because this technology is like really in the past like 10 to 15 years it's been created. But number two, it's like, well, what would our lives be without it? It's hard for our generation to even understand because we grew up at the conception of this very thing. The moment that there's nothing stimulating us, existential thoughts creep in, and that is like, it's pretty much horrifying.
No, the moment there's nothing stimulating us, that's when boredom sets in, and that's a form of suffering. We're not directed to look for something to escape boredom because the existential thoughts. It's much simpler than that. We just want to avoid boredom because it's unpleasurable. So we want to seek pleasure. So this idea that it's so deep, that's why we're avoiding it. There's plenty of people that while they're doing things they enjoy, they're also having deep thoughts, thinking about these things, contemplating these things as they're, kayaking or as they're skiing, or, not everybody is this kind of numbskull, idiot type of people.
Being brutally honest. We start to look for relationships and validation, right? Love, attention, approval. They are anchoring us. And because most people are afraid to admit the truth.
Not to say that just because people don't think about philosophy that they're a numbskull. That's not true. Because they can be very smart in other respects. They're just not, they don't find pleasure in philosophy. They're thinking about other things that bring them pleasure.
And a lot of the truth is that, like, when what we seek for in relationships is often not the value and the merit of the relationship itself, but it's that we don't want to be lonely. You know, I mean, that is true. I'm not sure this is true, like,
Yeah,
universally.
because we
I
don't
have
like
to
the
think about it.
feeling.
But at least, like, in my case, it just seems like people, like, do things, like, seek relationships, they seek validation. They don't want to feel alone. When you feel alone, you're essentially forced to think about your existence, and then that's when existentialism creeps in. So we often are seeking people not just for connection.
No, when you feel alone, it's unpleasurable. Having somebody there is pleasurable. Having intercourse is pleasurable. You know, because we're hardwired to want these things. Men, anyways. I believe women are as well. So that's all it is. We're biologically hardwired to seek pleasure.
Right? We don't necessarily care about them in terms of what it is that who they are, but it's like what they can do for us. We want to avoid being alone with our thoughts. One very interesting thing that I've been thinking about before, and I'm sure there's like a terminology for this, but it's like, what if, like, relationships, you know?
It's not an escape from deep thoughts. It's about not getting a need met. What is it? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. One of them is love. It's one of our needs, and we're biologically programmed to want physical touch and intimacy.
Like some people love their spouse so much that they'll die for them, which is 100% true. That's reality. Some people, parents love their children so much that they'll die for them, all this stuff. But it's sort of my theory that I'm tackling. Once again, I'm not sure. I haven't put enough thought into this, but that you love your spouse so much because your spouse makes you feel good. It's not like an altruism. It's because they make you feel good. They make you feel complete. You put a sense of your identity in them. And children is the most amplified city upon a hill pinnacle of this idea, where it's like children are an extension of the ego. And so parents will die for their children because it is like their greatest accomplishment. It is their magnum opus in life. It is what makes them feel complete. And so although it is external to them, like that is a separate sentient being, they still view it as like the highest version of themselves. Weirdly, if that makes sense, if you're following. And so they'll die for them because the idea that they would live without this thing would just shrivel their entire identity and everything with it. And that might be a rather negative way to look at things. And I certainly could be wrong. I haven't really thought to that, but it kind of makes sense to me. It's like, because if you think about it, like biology, we're designed to just above all else prioritize survival. And then it's like, so why would somebody lay down their life for someone else? Well, it's because like this idea of like love and fulfillment comes from your relationship with others. But really, that's like a mask for you just being lonely and wanting something greater than yourself. And then you're putting yourself in something else because it makes you feel like that. If you're following what I'm saying. But yeah, being alone, it exposes absurdity far more clearly. As somebody who spent most of my life alone, I can tell you 100% this is true. When I was in my later years of high school, when I was a sophomore, COVID hit. When COVID hit, I didn't go out or hang out with anybody until the end of high school after that. Like nobody. I would spend all my time alone. I would read a lot of books. I was working a lot of jobs. I was very depressed because I would just sit there and think about life, and none of my answers ever really made sense. And I was always drawing to the conclusion of like life is just absurd. And pretty much the only thing that gave me any sense of relief in terms of my anxiety and all this stuff was Christ, which is why I'm a Christian. But different people have different experiences, you know. But then you get to this idea of like goals, self-improvement, right? Like the optimized future version of yourself. You're telling yourself, once I achieve this, I'll feel complete. And that's just it. You're chasing an emotion, but every time you get there, you'll realize that emotion is something that you could have chosen all along. Like if you're seeking something because you think that you're going to get a certain emotion, then you already understand right now how emotions are created, and therefore that means that material success or that different goal that you're going to hit in your life, it does not equate. I've said this before. I think that winning a championship, like if you're a football player and you win the Super Bowl, that has to be the most underwhelming experience ever, because you're literally like you work so hard for something, you get there, and then you realize, oh, like this is it. Like there's nothing more than this. And so I like firmly believe that it's really not fulfilling. Like you get like almost depressed sometimes like when you win that big. So like dang, like it really is the journey, right? It's not the destination. The chase itself keeps us distracted. So we'll just keep on working, and then maybe we'll be fulfilled.
Yeah, but those football players and people that achieve great things, and when they obtain them, they have other aspects to their life. Maybe they want to take a trip to Europe or Egypt or the Alaska or whatever. Like there's other goals. There's more aspects to people's lives than just the one thing that they're known for most. So that this idea that they're going to get depressed because if there are such people, then they're very limited people if that's the only thing that they strive for in their life. I have many things that I want to do because biologically I'm programmed to seek pleasure. I might be known for a few things, but there are many things I want to do, and I'm not like thinking years in advance like I want to do this. I'm more of a person that goes with the flow. And somebody said to me recently, do you want to go on vacation to this place with me? And I went, and it was a great experience. But I didn't have this expectation from years ago where if I didn't go to this place, uh, so I don't like I didn't make a bucket list. Sure, there are things I want to do, but for the most part, uh, my roster is clear.
But after every achievement, there's a very short high, which is then followed by a sense of emptiness. In my experience in life, this has always been true. It's like I'll give you guys an easy example. So I do social media, and like let's just take like Instagram followers as an example. Like I was like so hyped at the idea of me getting 1,000 followers, and then I got there and I was like, oh, I want 5,000 now, and then I got 5,000, I went 10,000, and so on and so forth. And every time that I would hit a goal, hit one of those marks, I literally just like wouldn't care. I wouldn't feel fulfilled at all. I always want the next one. Like I want to hit the one after that, right? And it never ends, bro. It never ends, and it's a distraction. The continued chase, I feel like, is an innate part of us humans, which pretty much has been passed down because it's.
Is that really depressing, or isn't it nice that you keep having these new goals come up? It sounds like you might be suffering from depression, really. And that's biological, that's a chemical thing. We don't choose our emotional states. There's an illusion that we do, but if somebody, the proof is that if you have a vitamin D deficiency, that you are going to feel depression. And once you start taking vitamin D and maybe even other chemicals that the body needs, the depression will go away. The fact that you can take a chemical and it changes your state of mind, that proves that we are not in control of our emotional states. And if somebody walks in the door right now and says, this person you love has just died, you're going to have a compulsive reaction to that. You're not going to say to yourself, how do I feel about this? Do I want to turn on my sadness response? Do I want to flip that switch, or do I want to remain apathetic to this? There's no choice. If you do remain apathetic to that information, then that just reveals that you didn't care about that person. But a person you love, you're not going to be able to help but have maybe be devastated or something, and it's just going to happen without your permission.
Advantageous for us not to get super existential, because then we get suicidal. Like these things would start to haunt us if we had so much time to think. The absurdity itself, like we're conscious beings aware that we will die. It's just it's weird. Consciousness is absurd in of itself. There's no matter to it. You can't track consciousness. It's something that exists. We search for meaning in a universe that doesn't explain itself, and that there is knowledge, esoteric knowledge. There's different forms of knowledge outside of empirical knowledge that we simply can't know, that are above humans' ability to comprehend and understand. We can try to make sense of it the most that we can, but in a weird way, trying to make sense of it only leads to more suffering. And this sort of tension, it is uncomfortable. It's almost comical. Like it's so ridiculous. Like what really?
You say the universe doesn't explain itself, yet you believe in God. That's the ultimate version of the universe explaining itself, or at least the creator, giving meaning, explaining what the universe is for.
What are we doing here? Just like, it doesn't make sense. Let's just fill our time with work, because then we don't have to think about it. And this begs the question: is distraction even necessary? Maybe distraction is not weakness. Maybe it's actually just survival. Like I was telling you, like you wouldn't be able to deal with life if all you did was think about why we're here and then never get a solid answer. So maybe distraction is just a survival instinct. Or yeah, distraction could be like a survival instinct. Humans might need illusions of meaning in order to function. I mean, like if you were to tell an athlete who dedicated their life to winning an Olympic medal that doesn't matter, and after they work super hard,
it's no one ever defines this idea of meaning. They just use this word. What do you mean by meaning? No one defines it. I think we just do things because we enjoy them. People make it so complicated. I just simply, I collected all these seashells the other day. I enjoyed it, and I was also thinking, well, I'd like to give some of these to people. It's just as simple as that. It doesn't have to be so complicated.
That metal, then like that's just going to shatter the scope of their life. And so I think there's certainly arguments to be made that it is unethical, unmoral to try to convince people to switch what they perceive to be their meaning in life, because that's what's getting their engines to run. You know what I mean? If you sort of collapse that idea, then you're inflicting a lot of harm on them. Without distractions, motivation collapses. Without meaning, motivation collapses. And so we wouldn't be where we're at today as a society. We wouldn't have all the technological advances, because if Nikola Tesla believed that creating the alternate current was useless and it didn't matter in the end because he was going to die. He would never
Do
make it.
you really think that if there were no God and if we had no purpose, that we wouldn't still do anything, that we still wouldn't find pleasure in things or seek pleasure? I don't think so. Like, uh, again, like a toddler that has no idea about anything philosophical, still does things because they enjoy it. And I'm saying adults do the same thing. We never stop doing things because we enjoy it.
And then like the alternate current, which is used in every single household today, wouldn't exist, and we'd have much worse electricity. And it's certainly food for thought. I personally find it all fascinating. But the worst part about it is, in you watching this, like, I don't know the answer. No one that no matter how smart an individual, they don't know the answer either. It's just life, man. You essentially gotta create your own meaning, or get into religion, I mean, that's pretty much the only like solid answer to that. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Thank you guys for watching.
Yeah, it isn't that we create our own meaning. It's that we decide what we want to do. Actually, I'm a determinist, so we don't decide what we find pleasurable. Those things are biological. Like, people don't decide that they don't like anchovy or the smell of anchovies. That's just, because if it were up to us to choose it, why would we choose one thing or the other, whether we like it or not? Like, what would be the motivating factor behind us making that choice? Oh, I decided that I want to like anchovies because I like anchovies. I decided that I don't want to like anchovies because I don't like anchovies. But then why don't you, and then there's this infinite regress. So we don't choose that. Anyways, thanks for watching, and check out my videos on generic subjective continuity and all my other philosophy videos.